Good evening, viewers. Welcome to the Evening Review Show. I'm Matthias Ofiku, news editor of the Namibian Sun newspaper. Well, there's been a lot happening on the international relations front. Of course, just across the border, the BRICS summit ending today. We're going to delve into that. Of course, there are elections in Zimbabwe also underway. We're also going to delve into that. And of course, as Namibia prepares for its own elections next year, what are the repercussions? What are some of the things that we should start looking at as far as putting the architecture in place to ensure that we're ready for next year's polls? So those are some of the interesting discussions that we have lined up for you this evening. And for that, we have in studio Dr. Marius Kudumo, a seasoned international relations expert, also a public policy analyst. Doctor, good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
No, indeed, it's a pleasure having you here. Let's start off with BRICS. Of course, so much has been said. 15 years on, is it still standing by its founding ideals? What did it do to help this bloc of countries? And of course, the developing world that seem to be aligning with this body. What have you made of it during the course of these 15 years? Has it lived up to expectations?
Yeah, I think symbolically, look, the purpose is to collaborate more amongst those countries, those states, mostly in the economy, but also in the political sphere. So the mere existence, symbolically, was something. When you look at what is happening in the world, in the geopolitical system, because the current geopolitical system is more about hegemony, it's dominance by certain countries. BRICS, just by virtue of the number, the population, as well as the contribution of that group to the global economy, makes it a factor. So we might not have seen many things, but the mere existence means something in the geopolitical setup.
Yeah. There has been this narrative that this bloc of 5 countries, of course there's been applications by other countries to also join the movement, that it was formed merely to counter the West. I mean, there's been a lot of unhappiness and uneasiness as far as things such as the Security Council composition of the UN, and just the ability of the developing world to also sit on the table where the big decisions are made.
Yeah, look, international relations is about influence and power. When we look at the behavior of states in the international arena, we try to describe, explain whatever they do in terms of the influence that they want to exert, as well as their power, whether it is political or economic power. Now, when you look at global governance, because we don't have a government, but we have global governance. This global governance, for example, the United Nations, is underpinned by collaboration, working together, consensus, guaranteeing peace and security, international peace and security. But that has not been the practice, especially with the UN Security Council. That's why for a long time there have been talk about the reform of the United Nations, meaning to give voice to those that are excluded, especially from the Security Council. And the establishment of BRICS is actually to ensure that the voice of the developing countries is heard where decisions are made. Therefore, they are there also to assert this, or to indicate to the world that we want multilateralism. We want to hear the voices of everyone. We are not hearing it. If you are slow in reforming the UN Security Council or the UN reform, then we are creating an alternative voice to be at the table.
Of course, from an African perspective, there has been calls from scholars, academics, as to how Africa should position itself. Of course, we know there's a lot of aid that flows from the West. Now you have this alignment of the BRICS movement. How do we position ourselves as a continent? Which is the best way out for us?
Yeah, look, in addition to BRICS, you have the African Union, which is the highest level of a supranational body, a body that is beyond nation states. Actually, we need to make the African Union relevant and responsive to the needs of Africa. Obviously, the African Union have not been playing the role that it is supposed to play. One of the items under Agenda 2063 of the African Union is for Africa to speak with one voice in the international arena. Because you must also remember that just by virtue of number, the African Union or Africa have a big number in any multilateral organization. Yeah. But that number was not used effectively. Africa failed to take a collective position on many of the global issues. You have seen it, whatever they vote, they don't vote as a bloc. Yeah. So BRICS is an alternative, but you wanted to see that the African Union is strong, both in terms of the issues that it addresses and also how to respond to the needs of Africa, the ordinary people. Yeah. Because the dilemma, the dichotomy is Africa is rich in natural resources. Why must the people of Africa be poor? So, and international relations about interest, whether it is in BRICS or the other countries, their relationship with Africa is what they can get out of it. Yeah. But how is Africa positioning herself to be a strong voice in the international arena?
Yeah. If you were to be asked, where do you think Africa should side with, or what position should they take?
Yeah, look, because like I said, international relations is about the interest. What is the interest of Africa? Peace and security is important. Development is important. Industrialization is important. So whomever we are dealing with in the international arena is how do we put the interest of Africa first. Yeah. And as we say, international relations is an extension of domestic policy. So what are the priority areas of Africa is what I have highlighted. Development, industrialization, and so on. Yeah. So can Africa speak with one voice on those issues? They should, but we are not seeing it. Yeah. So that's how they are supposed to be positioning themselves. Okay. Remember that at a certain time, Africa have come a long way. There was the Lagos Plan of Action that defined the development agenda of Africa. They are the Abuja treaties, the NEPAD and Mbeki and the others. The problem that I have is we have too many plans and we abandon these plans. It means as if our plans are symbolic just for us to have plans. But plans are supposed to be intended to achieve certain results. Yeah.
Okay. There's been a number of countries that have made their intention that they want to join BRICS. From a Namibian perspective, do you think this is something we should emulate?
Yeah, I think Namibia is supposed to follow BRICS closely in terms of trying to see what is the direction of BRICS, what is the ideological underpinning, what is it that makes this country to come together. And one of it is to enhance collaboration and cooperation in a world order where hegemony, where you are either with us or against us, seems to be the dominant approach to international affairs instead of collaboration, cooperation. So, and also, what are the issues that Namibia want to advance? Can these issues be advanced through BRICS? And obviously, development that I have been talking about, industrialization, including infrastructure development, and also our relationship with South Africa in terms of trade makes us to follow closely. So if Namibia decides, for example, it should be informed by what are the benefits that we are supposed to be derived from belonging to this bloc.
Yeah.
But it's not a thing that you just jump in quickly. You need to do your assessment. You need to do your calculations in terms of cost-benefit analysis. What are the benefits? Yeah.
But would you say there is a case to look into?
Yeah, there is a case to look into. For example, the international arena is not only about size. It is also about ideas. The issue is Namibia having ideas that the rest of the world can listen to? The way in which this country has become independent, the negotiated process, the drafting of the constitution. There's many things that the rest of the world can learn from Namibia. Even generally, the issue of coexistence, peace in security. I'm really talking about the security of the state, not necessarily human security. So, and even in the international relations, in those bodies that I have been interacting with, there's a lot of respect for Namibia's voice in the international arena. And therefore, there is a case to be made that Namibia might contribute to global affairs.
Yeah. Okay. Doctor, we'll head for a short break. I want us to discuss the ongoing elections in Zimbabwe after the break, and also our road to the 2024 polls locally. To our viewers, we head for a short break, and we'll be back to continue this conversation. Stay tuned.
Stock up and save with the best deals at WB. Get 1 liter Vita Creamy for $11.99. 2 liter Nam Milk Omaere for $44.99. 200 gram top class spice mix for $11.99. 10 kg Hotchfeld maize for $84.99. Plus 2 kg surf washing powder for just $52.99. See more WB specials online at www.vurmanbrock.com. We care.
We care. Vurman Brock.
Neopaints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neopaints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neopaints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Well, let me welcome you back from the short break. Dr. Kudumo, just across the border, our brothers and sisters in Zimbabwe are at the polls today. Well, what has been your view as far as events leading up to the polls is concerned?
Yeah, I think the pre-voting period of campaigning, we have seen huge numbers of people attending rallies. There have also been complaints of victimization or violence. But in a nutshell, it would appear as if the citizens are eager to vote and participate in this election. That is the impression that someone will get from outside. And later on we'll explain why perhaps is there an interest, a high level of interest in this election.
Yeah. Of course, the SADC Observer Mission is there. You've been part of the missions in the past also. What is it like? What is it that these missions go and do in these countries? And is their presence, does it play any significant role as far as ensuring that the process is free, fair, and transparent?
Yeah, look, I have not been member of an observer mission, but I studied in Zimbabwe, and I have seen some elections taking place when I was studying there. The role of observers are defined in the various guidelines or procedures. For example, we have the SADC principles and guidelines governing democratic elections. It describes what the role of the observers are, as well as what the role of the member state is in election. The African Union have also a charter about democratic elections. But obviously, the role of these observers is to contribute to a free, fair, transparent, and credible election by being present and observing what is happening. And they produce reports, and those reports are intended to improve in areas where there are shortcomings. The problem that I have with most of the African observers is that election is a process. That's what the guidelines also say. There's a pre-election phase, which is critical. There's a voting day, and there is an after-election phase. Now, for you to arrive at a free, fair, transparent, and credible election, you should have observed also part of the pre-voting day. So many of these observers arrive a day or 2 days before voting. It's not adequate. It's not enough for them to express an opinion. But answering your question, their role is to observe what is happening, produce reports. These reports are intended to improve in the future. For example, when you look at the Zimbabwe election, I was in Zimbabwe in 2005. This issue of some polling stations opening late, of ballot papers not arriving in time, or long queues have been the key issue in 2005. And there seems to be improving. Meaning, they seems to be the same, Meaning that one of the critical things is whether our electoral bodies in Africa are learning organizations that are always improving. Of course, with the exception maybe from the South African Electoral Commission, many of them repeat these shortcomings all over and so on. Because the issue is the legitimacy of the election is not dependent on the observers. It's dependent on the citizenry. It is the citizen of the country and the participating political parties that can say, we lost, this election was free and fair. If those conditions does not exist, then there's no purpose for us having elections. Because elections is about contestation. It's a means to an end. After voting, we expect our lives to change. If it's not changing, then we are not doing the right things.
We see how these reports, post-elections, always rosy reports, everything was in order and so on. But the voices on the ground speaks a different story. How do you harmonize that?
Yeah, look, the thing is, the question that you are asking is, what is it that they are seeing that no one else is seeing, or the majority of the people are not seeing? And I think the problem is this thing of jetting in and jetting out. Because if you make an assessment, it is based on established objectives. The SADC guidelines governing democratic elections have set principles that we have to look at for us to declare this election free, fair, transparent, and credible. Like I said, there's a pre-voting phase, there's a voting phase, then there's an after that. So how do you then arrive at a different opinion than what the majority of the people are saying? Then either someone is not doing their job properly, maybe because of lack of resources and so on. Because almost all the elections in Africa are contested after voting. With the exception of the South African Electoral Commission. There will be complaints here and there. But that bodies may be properly staffed, properly resourced. Okay, of course, they also talk about lack of resources. But yeah, we are not supposed to be producing reports that just satisfy people.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be producing reports that help to improve institutions, processes, and the systems that can produce a credible election. So it's very strange because after they jet in, they produce a report, we don't hear about anything until the next election again, and the people are complaining about it.
Yeah. Of course, our own electoral body is preparing for next year. I'm sure they are following what's happening in the neighboring countries. What are some of the factors that you think should be put in place as we're ready for next year?
Yeah. Remember, I'm emphasizing these words, and they are defined in the guidelines, both of the African. It's free, fair, transparent, and a credible elections.
Yeah.
These are outcomes. The inputs must be right for you to produce these outcomes. Firstly, you need to prepare in advance and adequately. You need to provide resources for your electoral bodies. So the systems must be in place. For example, your voters' roll, updating it, ensuring that, cleaning up, ensuring that the people that are there are really the people that are still alive, and so on and so on. The training of the officials that are involved in this election. This requires resources. The transportation of both the officials and the material. So what I'm trying to say is learning from, because what I have heard from one of the polling stations in Zimbabwe is by the close of polling, the voting materials have not arrived. And therefore the president have to come up with a gazette or so to open. You don't really want to hear those type of things. Obviously, in terms of your census and others, you can look at the density of your areas in determining the polling stations. Yeah. So you are hearing, for example, the lines in Harare or Bulawayo was too long. You really want to plan properly to avoid those pitfalls. Yeah.
If you consider international electoral processes and you sort of compare them to ours, would you say we are evolving fast enough to catch up with the rest as far as having a seamless process is concerned?
Look, we speak on the basis of evidence.
Yes.
When you look at some of the countries, when the vote closed by 7, by 9, the results are already beginning to come out. Big population. So we vote today, tomorrow the results are out. So with technology and all the other things, we're supposed to be improving. Even if our infrastructure are not right, we should not be taking a population of 2 million 5 to 7 days to count elections. So there must be improvements in the way so we are not catching up fast enough. Even in terms of, as a country, our projections. You see, in many of these countries, before people vote, they already have projection who are going to win on the basis of studies and other things that they have done. Now with us, we have to wait for 3 days, and the conspiracy theories about why there is a delay is happening. Really, I think we are not catching up. We should be within a day after close of vote in a population like Namibia declaring the elections. Remember, there have been a lot of innovations of saying the ballots will be counted at the voting stations. So why is it so difficult to get these results? 1 to 2 days it should be out. So I think we are not catching up fast enough.
Yeah. Of course, just lastly before we wrap up, the issue of apathy has always been an Achilles heel for us as a country. How do we deal with it just to avoid that and just to improve numbers at the polls?
Yeah, look, I have been always contesting that I'm not sure whether it is apathy or not. You see, there are people who take a conscious decision not to vote, and we cannot classify that as apathy.
Yeah.
That person have taken a conscious decision not to vote.
Should there be a space on the ballot paper to say?
No, no. Meaning that voting is about choices.
Yeah.
They are not finding a choice in terms of ideological grounding, in terms of policies, even in terms of trust that you are going to change their situation.
Yeah.
Like I said, after voting, there's an expectation that our conditions will change. And if they feel, these people are just the same, whether you vote, that's not what I'm encouraging. I want everyone to vote because it is a responsibility as a citizen. But the obligation is on the political parties and the individual to convince us, why must I vote for you? So my vote must not be cheap. So both the Electoral Commission of Namibia, the political parties, and the individuals, we need to do a lot in terms of our civic education. To explain what it means to be a citizen in a democracy. Also to explain what it means to vote. Is exercising choices with the expectation that my life will change. If my life is not changing, I should be free to look for another alternative that I think will address. So, but the onus is on the political parties. What are the alternatives that they are providing to us for us to vote? If you are an incumbent, what is the message that things will be different? What is it that you will do differently? And remember that our voting population is also changing in terms of the age group and so on. You can't be continuing with the same message that you have been saying all this time. You need to package your message differently. You need different people to convey this message. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. For example, to make it, if I'm staying in Rundu and there are potholes everywhere there, and you have been in government for 33 years, don't come to me and say, if you vote me, I will fix this pothole. Why did you not fix it? So political parties must make it attractive and individuals for us to vote for them. On the basis of the articulation of their policy, as well as on the basis of for us seeing, yes, these people are actually there for us. Remember, in our constitution, these are servants of the people. They are public office bearers. They serve the Namibian people.
Okay. Well, Dr. Kudumo, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you, and all the best. Well, to our viewers, that's it from the Evening Review team. Have a pleasant evening. See you again tomorrow, same time, same place. Thank you.